7 questions for Novus Ordo Catholics. So, as you know, I am a traditionalist Catholic. I attend the Society of St. Pius X Latin Masses, and I get a lot of questions put to me by mainline Catholics over the years about how I can justify violating this and this code of canon law, how I justify this and this and this, and usually something about how in the early church, some church father mentioned communion in the hand once. Um, and I get a lot of it, but here's a thing. I, as a traditional Catholic, have a lot of questions and objections to mainline Novus Ordo Catholics that are never really addressed. So here are 7 questions I have for Novus Ordo Catholics for which I have never really received a satisfactory answer. So question number 1. Why is it whenever I, as a trad, bring up the faith, you dive right into canon law and liturgy? So this is a common thing that actually I've noticed quite a bit when it comes to trad Catholic apologetics against the Society of St. Pius X. So a lot of Sedevacantists or a lot of SSPXers or even people in the Fraternity of St. Peter will bring up questions like, okay, this is a problem. We can't go along with the bishop here. Why? Well, because he's not teaching the Catholic faith. He's openly taught this. He's openly taught this and this is which is heresy. He's openly this is going on in the Vatican, which is explicitly heretical. Pachamama. Google if you don't know what Pachamama in the Vatican is. Please, you need to know. Google it. Fiducia supplicans, etc. And whenever we bring up things like bring up things like this, more often than not, they go. It's usually, oh well, canon law says there has to be canonical trial X and X. Therefore, you can't do anything. It'll well, the Novus Ordo liturgy is okay because of obscure church father. We can reconstruct this. Therefore, everything in the Novus Ordo is okay because hey, we can piece mishmash together some early church documents and say this is what a liturgy looked like maybe at some point in some places at a primitive point in time. Therefore, it's much better than the traditional Latin Mass. And it's usually they tend to I find that they tend to try to sidestep a question, and this has happened to me many times when I said, okay, well, canon law. I says, okay, divine law trumps canon law. That's a statement of fact. And I'm not bringing up a question about liturgy. Like I told people many times online in real life, why go to SSPX? And they say, oh, let me tell you why you shouldn't go to SSPX, because Novus Ordo liturgy is good. I usually say, well, the Novus Ordo liturgy of the new Mass is actually not even the main reason why I go to SSPX. I do agree with its positions, but it's not even close to the main reason why I go. It's because the faith is being taught at SSPX, it's not being taught at the local Catholic parishes, and it seems to be the faith not being taught at local Catholic parishes does not seem to be just a local phenomenon unique to a place here or there. It seems to be something that's happening globally. And whenever I bring that up, they immediately try to dive right back into dots and tittles of canon law, try to come up with legalistic reasons as to why it doesn't matter. I don't have like 5 or 10 witnesses, and there's been no 4 or 5 canonical trials. Therefore, I can't call the priest who openly from the pulpit said Jesus made a mistake, didn't know what he was talking about, a heretic, um, and everything is fine. And I should shut my mouth. This happens frequently. I'm sure if you are traditional Catholic and have had this discussion with Novus Ordo friends, the whole question of obedience is brought up, and they tend to sidestep the question of the faith. Why do you do that? And my honest reaction whenever you do it, as a traditional Catholic, as a SPXer, is that my thought is that you know that I'm right about the divine law being violated here, but you do not want me to reach that conclusion of go SSPX. So you try to come up with any legalistic excuse and you're grasping at straws. And trying to ignore my main concerns. And that's honestly my reaction to whenever you do that. And if you have a better answer for me than that, feel free to comment below, and I'll give you my response and my thoughts on it. Number 2. Why do you tell prods that the Pope is not above the faith, and then criticize traditional Catholics for putting it into practice. So, no secret, traditional Catholics have no problem thinking Francis is a nutcase for with things like fiducia supplicans, for his suppression of churchill at mass, and other things he says and does. Yes, we believe in papal infallibility. Yes, we believe under certain circumstances, a pope, including Pope Francis, if you're SSPX, not Seed Vacantus, mind you, would be valid. He would act infallibly, but outside that, he can make a mistake. And while normally you should follow the Pope, even when he's not being infallible, as per the First Vatican Council, there is precedent in church history for popes enabling heresy. Pope Honorius I, whenever something really heretical is going on. And yes, a common excuse I've heard to avoid that is, well, how do we know what the Pope is being heretical? How do we know what the Catholic faith teaches? Google it, learn it, study it. That is literally your job as a Catholic, is to know the Catholic faith in this day and age, especially. We have no problem telling him, Francis is wrong. We're going with the faith. This is the Catholic thing to do. The Catholic faith is more than a game of keeping Francis or whoever is on the see Peter happy, even if they do hold the office validly. Obviously, you obey him under, as I said, under normal circumstances when he's not teaching heresy, and yeah. But what happens is what I find is that there's a major disconnect about this whenever you're talking to Protestants about this, or to traditional Catholics. When Catholics talk about papal obedience to Protestants, they do say the Pope has limits to his authority. He cannot change divine law. He he's not allowed to do these things. Yes, you can even resist him, like under extreme circumstances, like with the Apostle Paul and Saint Peter, who everyone admits that Peter was infallible. Um, but when you get to the Tradcast, you get to the question of, well, how are you to say that, for instance, doesn't know the Catholic faith? Yes, he denied. Yes, he put a statue of Pachamama, a pagan idol, on an altar in a in Rome and prayed in front of it and did a ritual with it. Like, but how are you? Who are you to say that he's wrong? Who are you to say that Father who denied the real presence in the Vatican is wrong? Who are you to say that fiducia supplicans, which says let's bless unnatural relationships, that it's a sin? People know the Catholic faith, and they essentially and they try to get a lot of trads into legalistic scruples on it and say, if you think like that, otherwise you're thinking like a Protestant. So I, as someone who's been on both sides of that discussion, both as Protestant and a traditional Catholic at various points in my life, I've got to call it mainline Catholics for doublespeak. Okay, either you're lying to the Protestants about what Catholic obedience looks like, or you're lying to traditional Catholics about what it looks like to get your way. You're one of the two. Pick one. Honestly, based on the Bible and church history and everything, and taking all the documents into consideration from church history, I think that what they're telling to the Protestants is certainly more in line with what the Catholic teaching is, because Paul did criticize Saint Peter, called him out on it, even though he was still infallible. Wrote First, Second Peter. Remember, two, you have precedent for it in the past. Popes being resistant called out in the past. Pope Honorius, Pope John the 22nd are two famous examples. And three, like, yes, you have to understand the Catholic faith. That is like a. Well, who do you know? How do we know what the early church taught? Read. Read. That's your job. It's your job. And we don't live in the Middle Ages. We live in the Information Age. And as such, especially if you were an educated Catholic of any sort, your knowledge of the faith should match that. You can't just you cannot shouldn't let a priest do your believing for you. And yes, I'm aware of the decree of First Vatican Council that says you have to obey the Pope even when he's not being infallible. But yeah, that's like saying listen to your parish priest even though he's not being infallible. Doesn't mean if he preaches blasphemy from the pulpit you then blaspheme. And that's a similar thing. It's just that Pope Francis does it so much. He says so many things. Heretical. There's literally a website that's keeping track on the things he said that's off, and think the last time I checked the website, it was like 4 to 5 thousand statements that he's issued made that are explicitly heretical. It's going to take, yeah, yeah. That is something. That is a double speak I have noticed between and it does I'm going to be honest with you. It has scandalized people away from the faith. I know Catholics who've left the Catholic Church entirely because behavior like that has made them believe that the Catholic Church is about keeping the parish priest and the bishop and the Pope in Rome happy all the time, and what Jesus thinks and cares about does not matter. And it's very harmful. But yeah, based on Catholic faith and church history, that's what it is. What they tell the Protestants is accurate. The faith comes first, and yes, we have to go with what the church precedent church has taught before for consistently for 2,000 years. Not your own personal private reading of the scripture. There are other things to go on other than whatever the most recent statement is out of Francis' mouth. 2,000 years of, again, we have 2,000 years of scripture, historic Catholic teaching and church precedent, and magisterial documents from the church fathers. We got plenty to go on, even to know like what. So at least so we know at least what's within the realm of possibilities. That's quite a bit of precedent to go off of. So if you're a Catholic who's been scandalized away from the Catholic Church entirely because of behavior like that, link down below, SSPX. There are Catholics who think like you and who manage to keep the Catholic faith. That is not the Catholic faith that you presented. It was priest worship that you presented with. Go check out SSPX, the Traditional Catholic Faith. Number 3. How is your parish still a Catholic parish if it doesn't hold a Catholic faith? So this is a conversation I had with some when I was visiting them. And I told them I was SSPX, I'd go to the new Mass, etc. They say, well, we should stay and fight. Fight for Catholic parishes. Fight for our churches. And this is something what people want to leave the Catholic Church say as well. And honestly, if you're a Catholic thinking about leaving the Catholic Church entirely over this, I'll say this. You are not thinking about leaving the Catholic Church. You're thinking about leaving a bunch of people who committed identity theft against the Catholic Church. And that's kind of my point. Again, you go SPX as well, there's still the Catholic faith. But essentially, I asked them this. Okay, so you want to go to a Catholic parish, right? Okay. Is the liturgy in line with what Catholic liturgy is historically? No, they do communion in the hand. There's a ton of liturgical abuse. Who knows if the parish priest even believes in real presence, etc. Okay, so it's not a Catholic liturgy. I said, okay. Was even the building built at a time prior to the Second Vatican Council? No, it's a new building. I said, okay. Third question. Is the priest Orthodox? So the priests are Orthodox? No. Oh, no. They know the Catholic faith and reject it. They believe in all these weird ecumenical interfaith nonsense, idolatry things. And it's horrible. Okay. 4. How about the congregation? Are they at least Catholic by at least 51% majority? Oh, no. Most of them don't accept Catholic teaching. We need to work on that. I said, okay. So I said, okay, here's my point. You don't have a Catholic, you say it's a Catholic parish, but it's not an old Catholic building. It's not an old, the priest is not Orthodox, the congregation is not Orthodox, the liturgy is not Catholic. In what sense is it a Catholic parish and a Catholic church? They admitted I kind of had a good point. Now, I agree that you should, fight for these people's souls. That is a good concept idea, but you also need to, but part of fighting for their souls is being honest and realistic about where they are at spiritually. The fact of it is, if they reject the Catholic faith and are worshiping in a non-Catholic way, they are not Catholics. They're descendants and relatives of people who were Catholics, essentially. And you need to be fighting to bring them into the Catholic fold. And it's the same way as dealing with people who say Protestant, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, or whatever. And that's their spiritual reality that they are in. They need to be brought to the Catholic Church. You're not preserving the Catholic faith. You're trying to convert people to it. And that's something that's in practice on the ground in a lot of Catholic parishes. Again, it's one of the big reasons why I stopped going to mainline Catholic parishes, because they don't teach the Catholic faith. By and large, they're not teaching the true faith, and that is honestly a big, huge, enormous problem. You need to teach the Catholic. You need to hold the Catholic faith on some level to be a Catholic, and you need to and the Catholic faith needs to be taught and believed in a Catholic parish for it to be a Catholic parish. And sorry, I'm not going to be tolerating any legalistic excuses that will cannot that will be used in an attempt to avoid reality. If you're not holding the Catholic faith, you're not a Catholic. You know the meme that says, "Oh, I'm Catholic, but psst, you're not really a Catholic." That meme is actually accurate, and my only controversial statement is that we should apply it across the board consistently. And if that's the case, yeah, they're not Catholics. Number 4, why are you obsessed with attacking civicontists? So, like, I've got to be honest with you, and applies also to SSPXers as well. I look, of all the people that even when I was a Novus Ordo Ecumenist, and I was one for a brief period during Mad Catechumenate, one of the things that always made me think that there was something off about the ecumenical movement is how they treated Civicontists and SSPXs. Okay, so they're outside the church. Okay, they're schismatic. Okay, then well, so are the Orthodox. Oh, they're in Parch communion. Well, so are the Orthodox, and we love them, and we think they're great, and you can go to them in extraordinary circumstances for sacraments and receive them, and there's no wrong done in praying at their churches and congregations. And if they do convert, well, they're still saved anyway. Okay, and that's what I believe. Okay, then. Well, the SSPXers and even the Civicontists believe in the historic principle of the papacy. They just think it's vacant right now. They believe in transubstantiation, real presence. They believe in more of the ecumenical councils than the Orthodox do. Of all the people that I, as an ecumenist, my attitude was then was okay, as an ecumenist who believes in ecumenism, and I might think the Civicontists are wrong, but it seemed to me at the time that they're the ones who we should be working closest with. I could say, okay, there's a logical disconnect. You can pray at a. I spoke with Catholic priests at the parish. Could I attend a prayer at a Baptist service? Yes, go right ahead. No danger of losing the faith. Yes, take part in this interfaith prayer with people are Jewish or Muslim. Yes, there's only one God of all true religions. Okay, can I go to a Civicontist mass? So I always noticed there was a major disconnect there. With SSPXers and seeds by mainline Catholics. And it was one of the things that made me think that there was more to this ecumenism thing than just consistently believing that outside the church, that there is a broader world of faith outside of the Catholic Church. I was willing to accept that. Had the church indeed taught it? I thought it did. Therefore, okay, well, they're outside the church. Oh, they're outside the church. Well, that doesn't matter. Vatican II. You have salvation. There are elements of sanctification of truth outside the Catholic Church. Therefore, they're sanctifying people, and they have elements of truth more so than the Protestants we are doing ecumenism with. Protestants don't venerate the Virgin Mary. Civicontists do. Protestants outright reject, even in principle, the concept of a papacy. Civicontists, at least in principle, accept it. And it was one of the things, but whenever you turn to SSPX or seeds, their heads would start spinning. So that's it was actually one of the first things that got me thinking that there is more behind the modern ecumenical movement in the Catholic Church aside from embracing a wider view of Christianity. That they are rejecting something. They're trying to reject something. That's important. And that was one of the first things that caught my suspicion, actually. So why aren't you consistent with accepting people? And they would go viciously online. I've heard accounts of how Civicontists are vicious. I remember being in a group where Civicontists just went in and they mentioned they're Civicontist. No more statements than that. Just a matter of fact saying, well, these are my personal views, politely, respectfully, and they were being utterly attacked. Same thing with SSPXers, and they made their whole mission on like how to attack Civicontists. I remember when I stopped working with people in the mainline Catholic Church in my area, I said, well, okay, they said, my mission, they were attacking a Civicontist, and I said, okay, here's the thing. The reason he's Civicontist is because he's been horribly scandalized by what's going on in the mainline Catholic Church. Our main point of attack should not be Civicontist. It should be the modernists in the parishes. Because that's why the Sidvacantists are Sidvacantists, is because they're scandalized by that. They said, "Oh, I don't want to support you anymore." And that was kind of, for me, a big major wake-up call as to just what the motives were behind this sort of behavior. It wasn't they're they're not mad at people having left the church. They're mad that they're upholding Catholic doctrine or trying to, and they want to stick with the modernism and hate anyone who's not on board with their modernist thing. Again, this is not an endorsement of Civicantism, but it does um, it, but it or, but it does show that when it comes to SSPX and Civicantists, there there seems to be a major disconnect in modern Catholic logic. Number 5. How do you, as Christians, justify what Lefebvre rejected? So this is kind of like a nuanced thing, uh, but it's again another thing about that's kind of like historically problematic with mainline Catholics. So mainline Catholics do profess to be Christian. They engage in ecumenical dialogue and worship with other Christian denominations, etc. Yet you hear about the stories of why Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre did what he did. If you haven't, please look up the documentary of his life and watch it. I'll say this: if you are a critic of the SSPX, again, fine. You're welcome to comment on this channel. I'm glad you're here. Actually, I want you to keep watching my videos, even if you're not a supporter of the Society of St. Pius X, or even Catholic, or even Christian. Gotta convert somehow. Someone's gotta be the first, but watch the documentary of his life if you want to comment on Lefebvre. Know where Lefebvre is coming from, and that's a policy I try to follow with with other religions. Like I try not to comment on other faiths or religions or Protestants or anything unless I'm at least semi-aware of where they're coming from. I think that's equitable. I think that's fair. I think that is reasonable, and I think it's something that should be demanded and expected of me. That being said, so that being said, here's some of the things that Lefebvre dealt with prior to the icon consecrations. One, I'll actually give you the main one. Actually, it was a pastoral visitation that happened at his diocese, not his diocese, at Acombe. At that point, they were kind of rocky, but there was nothing. But there had been no serious suspensions or excommunications against Lefebvre at that point, and there was a normal canonical visit to the Society of St. Pius X headquarters at Acombe. Nothing unusual about that, happens all the time. The Novus Ordo priests from the Vatican would not attend Mass with the SSPXers. Again, keep in mind, at this point, SSPX is not the icon consecration sign that happened. This is one of the things that led up to it. They went around and they would tell the priests that they would tell the seminarians there that Jesus did not rise from the dead. Please, if you are a Christian of any sort, your jaw will drop. Whether you think that it happened, whether you think Lefebvre was justified in his future actions, that is something that should make your jaw drop and should be considered way more serious than illicitly consecrating bishops or the papal mandate. That is literally denial of Christ himself. To say that Jesus did not rise from the dead. That is not a historical fact in Christianity. And a number of other things. And Lefebvre still said, okay, this is the problem. But he didn't do anything yet. What his final straw was, we're not going to let you even function. They literally told him, we are waiting for you to die so you cannot consecrate bishops. They flat out told him that, apparently. And that was what his final straw was. Okay, these people do not have the faith, because they had representatives sent to the Vatican, sent to a cone, like, who was picking these people? That's the face they're trying to send. That's the people who are in charge in the Vatican, people who do not believe that Jesus rose from the dead. That is, and that's the people they chose to send to Raccoon. So either they were, so one is that it was so prevalent in the Vatican and in church leadership that no one thought anything of it, or they're trying to present that face of denying the resurrection of Jesus Christ to Marcel Lefebvre, and in which case, of course, he's going to think they're apostates. They're presenting themselves as apostates. What else is he freaking supposed to think? Here's the thing. I know a lot of people in my mainly Catholic parishes who are somewhat traditionally minded. Even some liberal people who are liberally minded. And they go around and they see all this. And, oh, they say, oh, it's a Catholic parish was not becoming law. At least I'm being obedient. At least yes, they're denying Jesus rose from the dead, but at least they didn't consecrate bishops, the papal mandate as per which violates canon law. Don't you think that's kind of like an even bigger deal, denying the resurrection of Jesus? And I guarantee this video is going to be watched by people who are seeing such things and have thought such facts and have been unironic. They unironically avoid SSPX because it's disobedient and canonical, and then we'll go to a parish priest for the sacraments, for communion, who denies things like the resurrection of Jesus Christ, historical reality, the real presence of the sacrament, and many other things, and say, oh, it's valid. SSPX is valid. No denying that. Period. Full stop. And it's just, again, for me, it's just one of the things that it's a major hypocrisy to Novus Ordo Catholics. It's a major hypocrisy. Number 6. Modern Catholics. You claim that the modern Catholic Church is the same Catholic Church as 2,000 years ago. Why then you reject what it taught? Now, yes, as the early church, spoiler alert, they believe in things like transubstantiation, the papacy, etc., etc., and so forth. It also taught Saint Ignatius of Antioch letter to the Smyrnians that belief in transubstantiation is a salvation issue. Period. How does that square with all the times I've been told by Protestants in official Catholic programs to teach the Catholic faith that Protestants and those who deny the real presence are still Christian? They just deny some parts of the faith. They just don't have the fullness of the faith, but they're still essentially saved. That's a denial of what was taught by the Catholic Church. And then eventually you'll get some, of course, generally what you get is some double speak, is what I find usually happens. You'll get a token Father Tradcath in the diocese who will says, oh, the Catholic Church really teaches this, etc. And then wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The priest smile. The Tradcath's been satisfied, and they go on preaching this heresy. And they get Catholic Tradcaths caught in a loop where they constantly teach heresy. Tradcaths quietly tell themselves, "Oh, that's not really the Catholic faith," and they keep it to themselves, keep Father happy because we steal the parish priest, etc. But in practice, by and large, um, most priests that I've met, most mainline Catholics I've met, do believe that outside of the big C Catholic Church there is salvation, particularly the Baptists, Eastern Orthodox, Protestants, etc. That's not the Catholic faith. They practice ecumenism again. Same document. Ignatius of Antioch, letter to the Smyrnians. You're to shun those who deny the real presence of Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. Yes, he said, stand aloof from them. Do not associate with them. Irenaeus of Lyon said that we are to shun the assemblies of such people. And it's a rule that only seems to be remembered when when the mainline Catholics selectively decide to think of SSPX as being schismatic, and then they say shun us. It's not remembered with anyone else. It seems like the whole reason why SSPX is considered the whole reason. I'll say this: the whole reason why SSPX in traditional Catholics like me would think that and then some of us don't, but some of us do, and increasingly more so with the actions of Pope Francis. That so many traditional Catholics do think the mainline Catholic Church is a system, is that they seem to be selectively remembering that SSPX, thinking that SSPX is schismatic, and therefore you cannot attend their masses, but they will not remember it with anyone else. If they remember it with everyone else, we SSPX, if they remembered it with everyone else and had that attitude, there'd be no problem, really, honestly. There'd be that's like a major hurdle with a lot of traditional Catholics. Why aren't you teaching the Catholic faith in this regard with regard to Protestants? And if you're not teaching the early church, or the early church taught these matters, how do you claim to be the legitimate successors of the early church? You're not. Indeed, if you're a convert to the Catholic Church, the main reason you became Catholic, almost certainly, was because it represented early church teaching, papacy, Eucharist, and that is true. But this ecumenism does not represent what the early church taught or believed. Period. This idea that non-Catholics are saved does not represent what the early church believed. Period. Full stop. I plan on making a video on it at some point, and I decide I'm gonna have to make just on the topic of outside the Catholic Church and no salvation. I'm gonna have to make videos covering just the Bible, one covering just the Church Fathers, one covering just magisterial documents. It is so there's just so much to support it. You are not teaching what the early church taught. How are you different from Protestants who deny other aspects of the early church teaching, like transubstantiation? The fact is, you're not. You just maybe might possibly have some valid sacraments, but you're still denying early church teaching. And so again, early on, if you are a Protestant trying to come to the Catholic Church and this is bothering you and you realize this, go check out SSPX. They still hold what the early church teaches in this regard, and that is the early church today. Link down below in the description. And number 7, and I've addressed this number 4. Why does ecumenism and diversity not apply to tradcasts? This is, I mentioned this quite a number of times before in this video. It's just hypocrisy. It is one of the main reasons that I left the ecumenical movement. It was clearly hypocritical, and it made me think there is something deeper and dark about it. By rights, if you apply ecumenism consistently, even Sedevacantist and SSPX should be the closest thing to the modern mainline Catholic Church. If Sedevacantist and SSPXers both, in principle, believe in the papacy, they both believe in the real presence, all the 7 sacraments. Some tradcasts might even accept the Second Vatican Council. They just don't believe it teaches this modernism that's going on. Why can't you pursue? Why is it a problem to worship with them? Why has so much energy been directed towards them to try to save their souls and accuse them of being schismatic, disobedient, etc.? But hey, you're a Protestant. Hey, no big deal. I got a lot of horror stories from traditional Catholics who did go to mainline parishes and were basically brutalized, harassed, and bullied to the point of having mental breakdowns for it. It is anything but welcoming. A mainline Catholic parish is anything but welcoming to a traditional Catholic of any sort, of any brand. Even if you do believe that you need to submit and accept the new mass, etc., it's still you still get treated brutally. I know from personal experience and from others who've been in my shoes and their experiences. And don't say, oh, because you're resisting the church, There are Muslims who are doing that. There are Muslims who are trying to convert Christians. There are absolutely Protestants who are trying to get Catholics to come over to Protestantism. And that's actively going on. I know because I've seen it. Why is it? And I know Protestants who think that Catholics need to abandon the Catholic faith in order to pursue ecumenism with them. Full law. I spoke with them. You need to renounce the Catholic faith and stop doing this Marian transubstantiation thing. And they told me that to my face, and who I met. You can pursue ecumenism with them, and that is not a threat to the Catholic faith. But the SSPX would say, look, the bishop was saying doing these Pachamama rituals is not teaching the Catholic faith. Stick with transubstantiation, stick with traditional Catholic devotions, study the Catholic faith, read the early church fathers, read Catholics, embrace a traditional Catholic spiritual life, keep it Catholic as much as keep your prayer life Catholic. Those people are a threat to the Catholic faith, apparently. Those people are causing division in the Catholic Church. Those people are leading you away, and that's why you cannot pursue ecumenism with them, why you cannot attend their worship. It's pure hypocrisy. Pure hypocrisy. Nothing more to say. But yeah, I've never seen a good, satisfactory answer to any of these questions. And if you've got one, I'd like to hear your response down below. Feel free to comment. Again, no topsy-turvy canon law, no trying to use canon law to ignore my questions. I want to hear, and if you give me a response, I want to hear a response based on reality, not based on technicalities of, oh, you haven't seen the whole world. Yeah, I speak with people across the world, though. It's the information age. I know that in France, Germany, etc., it's the case. The same thing is going on. It's notorious in many cases. I know. I know these. I know that these things are going on globally. Um, I know. I do read. I live in the no canon law to try to explain why my concerns should be blown off and ignored. These are real concerns. I want serious answers to my questions. Not and I want responses to my questions, not responses as to why my questions are irrelevant. Not as to not I want reasons, not reasons why my questions should be ignored. These are serious concerns that are shared by a lot of people. And again, I await your replies. Anyway, God bless. Check out the SSPX Society of St. Pius X down below, or another traditional Catholic group. You can find them. Um, Stay safe, and God bless.